that is working now, Tish.
Great.
Hey, Tish,
Yes,
do you have my PowerPoint queued up?
Nathan.
Yes.
I can't see your mouth moving, so I wanted to be sure I see your still picture. Yes, we went through the slides briefly. I'm sorry, I thought you were on the line and saw that. So
No, I didn't see it.
I'm happy to scroll through the PowerPoint real quickly to get to your slides, just so you can lay eyeballs on them. Would you like that?
Please. Ah, there it is.
Can you see?
Okay, and I can just tell you when to go on to the next slide?
Yes,
right.
just a simple next, yep. The mattress was a little depressing to see, but I guess it's a reality.
Mattresses.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the top here. Any other questions?
Jeff, it looks like you're on twice. I just want to make sure we can still hear you.
I'm not sure why that is, but I'm here, and hopefully you can still hear me.
Fantastic. We can hear
Great.
you, and yep, I can even
Great.
see you. Fantastic.
Good.
Yeah, you're listed once as Lesk J and another time as Jeff Lesk, for what it's worth.
Yeah, okay.
Welcome to everyone who's filtering in. This is Jeannie Braja with Rock Creek Conservancy. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. We appreciate everyone being here and being part of this wonderful program, not just today, but more generally. Really excited to be working with all of you and to see your great projects moving forward. And Rob, I love that you're being socially distant by virtual.
Jeannie, I think we're good to go. We seem to have a nice roster of attendees here.
Well, fantastic. Just checking that I am unmuted. Welcome everybody. I am Jeannie Braja, the Executive Director of Rock Creek Conservancy, and I am so thrilled and delighted. It's really fun to be on the congratulations side of a funding announcement. I'm sure you could all understand that sentiment. We are going to start our program now. Just so everybody knows, we are recording this session and we'll be sharing that along with other materials more broadly after the session ends. If you have not already, I would appreciate, if you're not speaking, if you could mute yourself. And also throughout the event, please feel free to use the chat box to list questions that you might have. We'll have a little bit of time at the end of this session for Q&A, not just about the specific projects that you'll see presented today, but about the program more broadly, or to get ideas to learn from each other within your cohort of recipients. Tish, next slide, please.
Sorry.
It's okay. And actually, I think we can skip ahead to the agenda. I think I was supposed to use the beautiful Rock Creek slide while we were giving you the more mundane logistics. I know it helps me feel a lot better. We have a fantastic day for you. Again, we're so delighted to have everybody here. I am now giving the welcoming. Then I am going to turn things over to the fabulous team at Pepco to give an overview of the Pepco Sustainable Communities Grant Program. And then we will present the award recipients, all of you, and we'll hear from 2 recipients in each of the categories: community resilience and environmental stewardship. Then at the end of that, we'll have the opportunity to do a little bit of question and answer, which will give us a chance to learn from each other and learn about the really amazing roundup of projects. Next slide, please, Tish. I look forward to sharing more about all of these projects with you. We have a really incredible diversity and assemblage of grant recipients, and we can't wait to come back in a few months or the next year to share all the wonderful things that you've done. And with that, I am going to turn things over to the team at Pepco that makes it all happen. Melissa Lavinson, the Senior Vice President of Government and External Affairs, and Donna Cooper, the Region President for Pepco. Melissa?
Great, thank you, Jeannie, and really appreciate it. I also want to say hello and extend a welcome to everyone that's joining us today. We're super excited about this inaugural celebration for the Sustainable Communities Grant Program. And I do want to thank Jeannie and the whole team at Rock Creek Conservancy for all your help in getting this program up and running. Your partnership expertise, your engagement, your advice, you were so key in helping us to achieve success in our inaugural year. So just, again, a huge thank you to everyone at Rock Creek Conservancy. When we launched this program many months ago, we really had hoped that we would be celebrating this milestone in a natural environment or at one of the facilities at which we're helping to build resilience for our communities. Unfortunately, that's not the case, as we all know, due to COVID, and we all need to keep each other safe and healthy. So we're doing this event virtually today. But that said, we're going to do our best to help everyone here picture the significant environmental and resiliency benefits of the programs and projects that we're celebrating today. So at Pepco, we're committed to powering a cleaner, brighter future for our customers and communities. And that includes supporting efforts to protect the environment, preserve and sustain open space, and build resilience in the face of a changing climate. We believe that being part of our communities, it's more than about the power lines or the infrastructure. It's about leading on environmental initiatives, advocating for policy change to combat the climate crisis and drive a cleaner energy future for all of our customers. And it really means being at the forefront with industry-leading environmental practices across our operations and energizing our community through partnerships like these. Because we know that healthy environments, they equal healthy communities, and that's something that we all want and something that all of us here today share. So to accomplish this, earlier this year, we did launch the Sustainable Communities Grant Program, which is to provide funding and support for projects that help preserve and protect the environment and increase resiliency across our communities. And the projects that we're celebrating today, they're going to conserve open space, increase access to recreation, help improve environmental conditions, and build community resilience. And so at Pepco, again, we know that the actions that we take, they help ensure a cleaner, healthier environment for generations to come. And that's why this kind of program is so important to us. So now I'm going to turn the program over to our region president, Donna Cooper, who's going to provide a bit more background on the projects that we're celebrating today. So Donna, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Melissa, and good afternoon to everyone. Just wanting to thank you for joining us for our inaugural celebration of our Sustainable Communities Grant Program. I wanted to just underscore Melissa's comments regarding the critical role of the Rock Creek Conservancy. We cannot say that enough in helping to make this program truly a resounding success. We would not be here today celebrating these outstanding projects and initiatives without your great leadership as well as support. So just wanting to recognize that and thank you. I also wanted to thank, and would be remiss if I did not recognize our local governments as well as recreational authorities, our nonprofit organizations who all submitted applications for funding. While we were unable to fund all of the projects that were submitted, we are pleased based on the level of interest in this inaugural year. We will also work very closely with the Rock Creek Conservancy to provide feedback on the applications, and most importantly, to share information on how organizations can submit applications during the next round. So I encourage you to please apply. As part of our Sustainable Communities Grant Program, grantees can receive funding up to $10,000 for each project that focuses on open space preservation, improvements to park and recreation resources, as well as environmental conservation. We also provide $50,000 in grants to support resiliency projects, which are also very critical in terms of our communities. They have to demonstrate innovation in providing a safe and reliable resource for a community during a time of emergency. In total, each year, the Pepco Sustainable Communities Grant Program will provide up to $125,000 towards, again, open space, environmental, and resiliency projects in our communities. So this year's grants will support 10 projects in the District of Columbia, Prince George's County, Maryland, as well as Montgomery County, Maryland. Our grants will focus on open space preservation, improvements to parks, and environmental conservation. Thank you again for those submissions. We're also funding the resiliency projects. We're proud to support these and many initiatives that emphasize our ongoing commitment to the environment and the communities. I always like to underscore that we're privileged to serve. I want to thank you for your commitment to preserving and the support for the environment and the innovative approach to innovation. I'm pleased now to turn the program back to Jeannie, who is the Executive Director of the Rock Creek Conservancy, to provide a much deeper look at how these projects that we have identified, what they're doing for our communities and how they're driving change within our communities. So thank you very much again and welcome, Jeannie. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Melissa. And thank you to the rest of the Pepco team that really has been a fantastic partner in making this possible for the Conservancy, but more broadly for the community of resiliency and environmental stewardship organizations working across the 3 jurisdictions that Donna mentioned. It's been particularly exciting to work with Pepco and all of you this year, given the challenges we're facing, on top of the existing challenge of a changing climate that's leading to more extreme weather and other emergencies. We have that amplified this year by the COVID pandemic, which of course, in addition to providing stress on our communities, it's creating additional stress for nonprofits like ours that are trying to serve these important needs, knowing that these parks and open spaces, as well as the access to resiliency services, are so critical both in providing adaptation to a pandemic, but also to really sustaining us through that. As is evident from the many applications that we read, you all value and share the importance of those parks and open spaces, not just for their environmental benefits, but for the benefits they provide to our community's well-being. So with that, I am delighted to introduce the recipients of our winners. We had 2 categories of grant awarded. We had more numbers, smaller amounts within the community, or rather smaller number, larger amounts of community resiliency grants. These focused on projects that demonstrate innovation in providing safe and reliable resources for a community to minimize the potential impacts to the environment during a time of emergency. And if we don't have emergency this year, I don't know when we do, including adaptations to existing facilities to accommodate social distance or other pandemic-related needs. These projects also aligned with local or regional resiliency or emergency planning efforts. We're particularly grateful to Pepco for really helping us augment efforts that are underway and really helping nonprofits continue and sustain the important work that they're doing. So the recipients that are going to represent those awardees for us today are New Partners Community Solar Corporation and One Montgomery Green. New Partners grant is funding the addition of highly efficient battery and sophisticated solar power management system at the Ludlow Taylor Elementary School in Washington, D.C., which serves low-income households. And then we'll hear from One Montgomery Green. Their project is funding climate resilience to engage and educate at-risk communities of color in Wheaton and Silver Spring and Montgomery County on climate change vulnerabilities, resilience, and adaptation. And I'll just send another thanks to Pepco for being willing to fund the important but often unfunded work of planning and getting ready to make pretty significant impact. We'll go to the next slide, please, Tish.
Oops, sorry.
And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Jeff Lesk from New Partners Community Solar to share the really exciting project that they are working on.
Thank you, Jeannie, and we are proud to take part in this effort. And congratulations to everyone who's working so hard on these issues. At New Partners Community Solar, our mission is promoting environmental justice, which for us means making sure that the benefits of sustainability and the green economy are shared equally by all stakeholders, particularly our low-income residents who are most typically ignored. Next slide, please. We started doing this by producing solar energy on downtown rooftops around the District of Columbia, represented by buildings like these. Next slide. But while the solar is being produced on those buildings, the benefits are ultimately being given at no cost to the residents of these affordable housing projects in different areas all around the city. Next slide. And it's not only going to those affordable housing projects. We are giving 100% of the economic benefits of all of the solar that we produce directly to low-income residents in these affordable housing developments around the District of Columbia. Next. So how are we able to do this? How do we create this magic? Well, it's done through the implementation of the first community solar project in Washington, D.C., which essentially means that all of those solar panels that we have on all of our arrays are generating renewable energy. And we're quantifying the amount of energy that we produce, directing it through a facility to our account at Pepco. And through the community solar legislation that was recently enacted and first implemented by New Partners, we're able to give the benefits of all of this solar production to scores of low-income residents around the district living in affordable housing developments. And they get those every month on their Pepco utility bill. Next slide. So we were working on our first expanded project. We went beyond commercial building rooftops, and we were getting close to completion of our project, a very large project at Ludlow Taylor Elementary School. 4 rooftop arrays and a newly constructed solar canopy was covered with solar panels, but also provides a nicely shaded area for the children to play on the playground, learn about sustainability, and be sort of a living classroom under which they could play and learn. Next slide. But unfortunately, the pandemic had other things in mind. So before we were complete, as with many projects in the District of Columbia, many buildings and programs, the school was shuttered. And so it was very difficult for us to even get access to the school to complete the project. And most importantly, even when it was completed, because there is not much energy being used at the Ludlow Taylor Elementary School, all the energy that we're able to produce is essentially wasted because of the intricacies of the grid and the way that there has to be a balancing between production and use. All of that energy, and it's a huge array, wasn't able to go to the low-income residents around the city. And so, we've made a practice at New Partners of turning challenges and crises into action and demonstration projects. And we were able to engineer a new battery installation so that even times like this, where we have a pandemic, the effect of the pandemic, or indeed during any sort of a grid outage due to weather or grid shutdown, we're able to store the energy that's being produced, the full potential of the energy in batteries, and then release the energy to the grid, to users in the evenings when the balancing is much more possible. And so we've done this in a way that we believe contributes to the concept of resiliency. It's the grid resiliency. It's a model that others can use, not just for situations like a COVID shutdown, but any power shutdown. And most importantly, next slide. We've done this. Why don't you give the next slide, Jeannie? I think we'll go right to that. So, you see we're adding to our basic program this concept on the right with the battery installation. During times when we have these outages or inabilities to produce, we're able to automatically, through very sophisticated programming, being able to fully utilize 100% of the generation that we can produce. And next slide. And most importantly, get them to the residents who need it the most. And these folks need this right now. You can imagine how devastating it is in a situation where our residents need the benefits the most, but are not able to realize them because of the pandemic. And we're so grateful to the Pepco Foundation and the Rock Creek Conservancy for enabling this to go forward. It's not cheap and it's not easy, but thanks to your support, we're able to accomplish it. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm not sure that anything that's really worth doing is cheap and easy. Next, we are going to turn to the woman who might put solar power out of business because we can just tap into Wendy's personal power source. You'll see she's incredibly high energy. Wendy Howard, the Executive Director of One Montgomery Green, to describe their community resiliency project.
Thank you, Jeannie. I really appreciate those kind words. And I really do want to thank the Pepco team and Rock Creek Conservancy for supporting this project. Like Jeannie said, I'm Wendy Howard. I'm the Executive Director of One Montgomery Green. Next slide. One Montgomery Green is a nonprofit in Montgomery County, serving mostly Wheaton and Silver Spring, with outreach and education that promotes sustainable communities and a green economy. Besides stream cleanups and green webinars, we have projects like this one pictured here, we call Clean Headwaters, where we take high school students out to our local stream in search of microplastics. Next slide. Of course, the real problem is climate change. We know that the impact of extreme weather, heat waves, rising sea level, and poor air quality will greatly affect our most vulnerable and underserved populations. Next slide. This climate resiliency project will engage, and this is a pilot, will engage and educate the community by creating a vulnerability assessment tool and response plan. What differs from this plan and others that we've seen is that we are going to engage our key stakeholders in the community at the onset and also create the tool in the language of the community. With collaboration and multiple points of contact, always keeping in mind at these times, safe distancing, etc. Next slide. I kept this short, so I want to thank you again for supporting this project. More information about this and other projects that we do can be found at onemontgomerygreen.org. 2 minutes, see?
Very well done, Wendy. We appreciate that tremendously. And with that, we are going to turn to our environmental stewardship grants. These projects enhance resiliency in the region by stewarding open spaces and protected lands, which I'm sure all of you have been spending much more time in of late. These protect water quality in streams and rivers, mitigate urban heat island effects, and promote social benefits such as health, a sense of place, and community connections. And just as with the Community Resiliency Awards, we ask that these awards align with local resiliency strategies or land management plans. And we were just thrilled with the assemblage of projects that we were able to see and award. Unfortunately, we're not able to see all of those projects here today, but we do have the list of all of the projects. So next slide, please, Tish. We are really proud and delighted to be sharing with all of you the list of those projects. I won't read the list, but I'll tell you a little bit about each one. Accokeek Foundation will describe theirs in a moment. The Canal Trust will fund the Canal for All program to engage diverse youth in volunteer and paid conservation work on the C&O Canal National Historical Park. Casey Trees is going to fund the Community Canopy Project to empower a community to enhance their neighborhood with 30 trees to be planted and cared for by community members. City Blossoms will fund free drop-in programming at the Youth Garden at the farm at Kelly Miller to provide environmental engagement and stewardship education opportunities for children in Ward 7. The Friends of Wangari Gardens is funding the development of the design of an open space plan for Wangari Gardens, which is a sustainable and inclusive community of local gardeners and volunteers. And I can vouch for some great green infrastructure there. One Common Unity will support their Fly by Light environmental leadership program for students from 18 DC public schools, providing a curriculum of in-school lessons and nature-based programming. Bethesda Green will fund the installation of a series of rain gardens or bioretention cells in existing medians and impervious areas to manage stormwater as the Bethesda Urban District community grows. And last but not least is Ward 8 Woods, and we're going to get to them in just a moment, so I will let them share their project there. As you can see, there's a widely diverse set of projects that I think reflect the really diverse and complex needs of open space preservation, as well as connecting those open spaces to communities in our region. So with that, I'm really excited to introduce Nathan Harrington, the Executive Director of Ward 8 Woods, to share a little bit about their project. Nathan, if you need to, please unmute yourself so we can hear you. And then we'll restart your 2-minute timer.
I knew I was going to forget to unmute myself. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nathan Harrington. I'm founder and executive director of the Ward 8 Woods Conservancy. This is our logo. I want to thank Pepco and Rock Creek Conservancy for funding our project. Next slide, please. Our mission, we are a grassroots organization that works to enhance and preserve the beauty, ecological health, and public enjoyment of the more than 500 acres of forested parkland in the Ward 8 section of Washington, D.C. Next slide, please. For anyone who doesn't know where Ward 8 is, it is the far southern part of D.C. It includes a bunch of neighborhoods, actually. The most commonly known is Anacostia, but there's more to it than that. Next slide. Our Park Steward program started 2 years ago, and it provides year-round part-time income, meaningful work, and green jobs training to Ward 8 residents who have barriers to employment. So that's things like mental health challenges, criminal convictions, lack of education, and work experience. And here is a picture of our crew from last year standing in front of a pile of trash that we removed from Oxen Run Park. Next slide. So this program is going to focus on the woods along the south side of Suitland Parkway. You may have driven on it. It's a very busy roadway that was originally built during World War II to connect downtown and Bowling Air Force Base with Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland. But as the name would suggest, there is also a lot of parkland, about 50 acres on either side, and that land features multiple streams, dramatic topography. You can see in that top picture how there's a pretty steep hill leading down to the road, and there's a diverse wildlife population. I saw a couple of deer there yesterday. Next slide. There are a lot of problems with these woods. You can see in the picture littering and illegal dumping in places where apartment buildings back up onto the woods. We have invasive vines that are smothering native trees, and we have a lack of environmental ethos or awareness among many residents. So what are we going to do about it? Next slide. With this program, we're going to remove 40,000 pounds of trash. We're going to cut invasive vines from at least 300 trees. And for those residents bordering the areas that we're working, we're going to distribute 300 reusable grocery bags, and each one is going to have a leaflet talking about what we're doing and why. Next slide. That's all. How'd I do on time?
Great.
Oops, now it's my turn to be muted. Apologies for that. Thank you so much, Nathan. And with that, I am going to turn to Laura Ford, the president of the Accokeek Foundation, who is here with us today, but has kindly managed her time very carefully by providing a 2-minute and 2-second video that Tish is going to start now.
Hi, I'm Laura Ford, president of the Accokeek Foundation. The past 6 months have really shown us how incredibly important accessible outdoor spaces are, especially in majority Black communities like ours, which have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. Places like Piscataway Park can help to improve public health and well-being by serving as a welcoming space where people can connect with each other and with nature. The Accokeek Foundation stewards 200 acres of Piscataway Park in partnership with the National Park Service. We're what's often called a hidden gem in Prince George's County on the Potomac River, directly across from George Washington's Mount Vernon. The park is open every day and is free to visitors who enjoy the network of trails along the Potomac shoreline. This year, we're on track to double our visitation to about 100,000 people. And that lets us serve hundreds of visitors every day who experience the powerful interconnectedness of all life on this indigenous cultural landscape. Pepco has invested as a partner in our environmental stewardship work for decades, helping us to promote conservation efforts and support education and advocacy. We're excited that this new Sustainable Communities grant will allow the Accokeek Foundation to enhance the park's recreational trails. We'll be updating interpretive signs that increase public knowledge about sustainability and environmental issues. This project will impact the community by connecting people to the land, helping them to better understand complex social and environmental issues through the lens of history, and inviting them to see themselves as part of a larger story of community, sustainability, and environmental stewardship.
Thank you, Laura. Really appreciate that and lovely piece there. Tish, we'll go to the next slide, please.
I think Laura just wanted to say a word of thanks, if you don't mind.
Please, Laura. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say thank you, Jeannie. Thanks to you, to Rock Creek Conservancy and Pepco. We're delighted to be part of this group with all of you and really appreciate the opportunity to celebrate today. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Laura. I think that the diversity of awards that you've seen there really reflects the diversity of applications we received. Congratulations to everyone. And with that, I'm going to hand things back to Melanie.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. I want to start off by just giving a hearty congratulations to each and every one of our winners, as well as those who submitted your environmental and resiliency projects for consideration. We've seen such great projects this afternoon, and we look forward to partnering with all of you all. We're excited to see the Sustainable Communities Grant Program come to fruition, and we're just pleased to be able to partner with you. I want to thank everyone who made this possible this afternoon, starting with our Pepco family, especially our planning committee, including Alicia Adams, Ben Armstrong, and Jamie Caswell, with the support of Donna Cooper and her team. I know we've thanked them already, but I personally want to give a huge shout out to Jeannie Braja and Tish King, team who worked tirelessly to guide us through this process. You all have been outstanding. So thank you so much. And as you know, this is our inaugural year of the Sustainable Communities Grant Program. And due to your interest and feedback, we do plan to make this an annual funding opportunity moving forward. So please check our respective websites in January for an update where we will post our 2021 program cycle. And we will also send out an email blast with program specifics. And finally, I'd like to thank our executive sponsor for this initiative. You heard her at the beginning of the program, Melissa Lavinson, for your leadership in creating sustainable pathways for our nonprofit and municipal partners. And now we're going to watch together the world premiere of our program video, and it's featuring Melissa and highlighting our goals for the program. So take it away, Tish.
We have a strong commitment to preserving and protecting the environment in the communities that we serve. The Sustainable Communities Grant Program is one way that we know we can help do that. Our Sustainable Communities Grant Program supports environmental stewardship, conservation, and climate resilience programs across the communities we serve. Projects include preservation of open space, creation of recreational areas, and projects to adapt to a changing climate. We're committed to stepping up and stepping out on important issues, whether it be helping to combat the climate crisis or taking action to preserve the natural environment. We know that healthy environments equal healthy communities.
Well, who knew we needed a red carpet for this event too? That was fantastic. And I'm always happy when I see Rock Creek, not just in my virtual background, but in other people's media. So thank you, Pepco, on behalf not just of the Conservancy, but I think all the awardees here today. We really appreciate the support that you are giving to our region's resilience. We do have a little bit of time for questions if anyone has one. Whether it's for the team at Pepco, for the Conservancy, for the folks who shared their projects, or even for other award recipients. As noted, there's a lot of alignment between each of these projects and the regional plans that guide our adaptation, our resilience, our land management. So there's a lot of alignment between the projects. I'm excited to see as the projects mature through the year, not just the work that you each do individually, but the ways that we can all work together. The Conservancy really works to convene all of the actors within our watershed, the Rock Creek watershed. It's all of our watershed. So it's exciting to see that expand over the ridgeline, if you will, to the other significant watersheds in the Pepco service area and all of the work that you're doing. And I know there's a lot I can learn as I have been reading through these applications. I saw lots of common ground. Alicia reminded everyone, as is her wont, to please share your stories often with all of us. I will underscore that. There are, as you all know, some formal reporting requirements, but we'd love to hear and share and celebrate the great work that you're doing throughout the year. That work that's happening in open spaces, maybe we can drop by and visit. But please send your pictures, send your additional work. And Tish is really our point person for coordinating all of that media. So thank you, Tish, for all your work getting us ready for today and through this project. But I also want to recognize Jax Mack, who is with us today, and he is Uber volunteer at the Conservancy and has been tremendously helpful in keeping us organized to keep this particular program moving forward. I see Casey Trees is excited about the program. We're excited about Casey Trees' work too.
Jeannie, while people are pausing to collect their thoughts, if they have a question, I know there's some reviewers who were hoping to join us today, and we want to thank them as well.
Thank you for that reminder. If we have any reviewers, we had reviewers from all 3 jurisdictions, from government, from nonprofits, from, I guess those are the 2 things. We didn't have any private industry reviewers who really took a chunk of time out of peak vacation season in August to review these applications. And they had a lot of work. We had about 4 times as many applications as we were able to fund, I think, which reflects the significant, not just need in the world, but the challenges of this year. And we are very grateful to all those reviewers for their careful eyes and work on behalf of these outcomes. Well, I know how much work you all have. We can certainly give you 5 minutes of your day back. Again, I want to thank everybody for your participation, for the really exciting and good work that is to come. And if you have any questions about how to stay in touch, how to share, and keep an eye out for all of the media and social media to follow on this, please feel free to reach out to Tish or reach out to me and I will forward you to Tish. Let's all give one final thanks. Perhaps we can take our, everybody can get off mute, or you can use your reaction buttons, and let's give a huge round of applause to all of our award recipients. We are so incredibly excited to see this work coming over the year. The really creative projects that have adapted to some challenging circumstances this year. Thanks to Tish and Jax for making sure that we got here and looked good doing it.
Woo! So real quick, thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Jeannie and Tish, of course, for putting all this together. But I think listening to some of and hearing some of these projects, I think there's also an opportunity for us to work together within these different cohorts. So I am anxious to hear what other partners, recipients are doing, and see that there's probably some synergy that can go on.
That's
so I'm
fantastic.
excited.
Thank you. Tish, could you stop sharing the screen for a moment so we can get one big picture of all of the little heads, if you will, and we're going to do some screenshots here for anyone who wants them. And perhaps, if you haven't already, we will make sure that a list of all of the participants and how to connect with each other's projects is shared with all of you after this particular event. So again, congratulations, thank you. Godspeed as we start this important work. You will be hearing from us regularly. We hope to hear from you. And one final thanks, we did not get to thank our friends at Pepco. We are incredibly appreciative of this wonderful support that is really going to advance our region's resiliency. So thank you.
All right, we're going to go get started right now.
There you go. Get to it. I like that enthusiasm. I told you we could power the whole region on Wendy alone. And with that, we are going to bid you all adieu and talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.